All right, I see. I don't have any. Let's go back to the meeting here. Make sure everything is up. My video's not up. Let's bring my video up to speed. In the filming industry, it's like audio, speed. It's a way to check to see if you're good to go as far as the sound goes. Or so you don't really know if you're a director like me and you want to talk to your camera guy. So you'll say roll camera, you'll say speed, and you know your camera's rolling. Then you'll say roll audio, he'll say speed, that means your sound is going. So then after that, it's 3, 2, 1, action. And that's how it goes. So I'm not bragging about being a director or nothing like that. Just that's what we do in our industry. I got audio going somewhere and I'm getting an echo effect. So I want to kill my echo effect. I definitely want to see what's going on and be able to keep up to speed with you guys. So let me turn the volume down here so that I'm not getting an echo effect in my ear while I'm waiting on the Honorable Dion Powell to join us today. So let's talk about what's going on. Since we're sitting here waiting, we have this big bad bill. And I call it the big bad bill because it's jam-packed full of terrible things. This bill is, I want to say, atrocious. I can't describe how bad this bill is. I'm loquacious. I'm a wordy individual. I am someone who can speak. I'm good with words. As far as this bill goes, we're talking about a different level. There's not really many things that have occurred in this planet as bad as this bill. I'm just trying to get us up to speed here. All right, let me just do this right quick. Yeah, this bill is bad, man. I mean, and it's so everybody that's on some sort of aid and getting some sort of benefits from this country is affected. But the people that are not getting benefits are affected just as much. And I think that's the misconception that makes this bill as dangerous as it is. These people feel like, well, I'm not on Medicaid, so I don't know what these Medicaid cuts are going to do for me. How does this affect me? And that's where the problem is. Like, people feel like they're not affected by this. And I feel like, bro, you wildin'. So if you live in a red state, right? Take any state. I'll go with Missouri for 300. And, you know, you're not on Medicaid there. But a lot of the people in your area in this rural district that you live in happen to be on Medicaid. So you got doctors that take in these Medicaid patients, but you don't have to worry about that. You go to the same clinic, but you don't got Medicaid. You got a good insurance. You got a good job. You make $150,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $70,000 a year, whatever it may be. You got insurance. Your job provides you with health coverage. You got a good job. So why would that be a problem for you? So they lose Medicaid, you feel bad for them, but it's kind of like they should have done better with their lives. Like, thank God it's not me. Except the clinic where your doctor is relies on all that extra Medicaid to stay open. Yeah, your Blue Cross Blue Shield helps, right? But the vast majority of their money comes from Medicaid. Your Blue Cross Blue Shield's not enough to keep the doors open. So what happens is your Blue Cross Blue Shield doesn't mean anything if there's no doctor. The doctor office got to shut down. There's not enough money coming in from your Blue Cross Blue Shield. So the office shuts down. Now, where do you go to get medical care? Who's going to be your provider now? You got to try and find somebody else. You might have to travel 50, 75, 100 miles because Medicaid was keeping the doors open, even though your Blue Cross Blue Shield got you better access. You got to see different doctors. You got more specialists. You had a lower premium. You have lower co-pays, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, if they're not getting that money from that Medicaid, they can't stay open. I got a store, right? Boom. Check it. Hold up. Give me 1 second. I'm about to get y'all game because they lying to you. They lying to you. They making y'all feel like it's something that it's not. And I'm just give me 1 second. I'm gonna give y'all because y'all gotta understand how you're being duped. And my computer decides to do all of this. I'm like, yo, I got the microphone right in front of me, and that's probably not the best place for the mic, right? Getting me a mic check 1 2 1 2. I used to be a rapper. You know what I'm saying? Now, let me stop you. I don't want to be joking with y'all like that because we got the most serious thing that's ever happening right now. And it is indeed this big bad bill. And so let me give you all a little bit of game on this bad bill, right? So we were saying that your doctor office closed. You got 150, you got 150 miles or 75 miles or whatever to travel to get to your doctor. Then when you get there, because the one near you closed, because 40% of their money came from Medicaid, they closed. Finally found a doctor. Guess what? They jam packed because everybody in the radius of, let's say, 200 miles is going to that one clinic because they're the ones open, because they're the only ones that didn't shut down for Medicaid. I was supposed to give you all an example if I had a store, right? Hold up. I had a store one time. So I can get this example. I can actually give this example because it's all I don't know why this thing it's acting crazy. It's not just me, it's really just acting up. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to let the world know I'm on here so that y'all can come in and we can discuss this as a group. Cause all right, I'm just gonna save this and give y'all my undivided. Boom. So now y'all got my undivided. We here now. We locked in. Let me close this. Cause I was putting my thumbnail up so that when people come, they know what we're talking about. Because we're gonna talk about this bill. Let's get into this. So I got my store. And in my store I sell items, I'm a grocery store. Actually, I had a bodega. I don't know what y'all call it in other parts of the store, a country. It might be a little corner store where you can go and get. It's like a small store. You can get cigarettes, beer, CDs for extracurricular activities. You can get cigarettes and beers. We just thought of what we had sandwiches in our shop. You can go in the back. You can get a ham and cheese on a roll with lettuce, tomatoes, onions, salt, pepper, vinegar. So we had our little store. You can get, we sold ham. If you go into one and they have Arabs in the back, they don't touch ham. They don't touch pork. So they'll have like turkey ham, but that's neither here nor there. So that's the kind of space that we're talking about, a bodega, right? So outside of cigarettes and beer, wasn't allowed to sell alcohol, we could sell beer. Got alcohol in New York State. I don't know about the state. In New York City, you had to have a different license than in order to be able to sell beer. We had a license to sell beer. So we had your 40 ounces back in the day. We had some stuff in the store, right? So in this store, you come in, you buy what you want to buy, and you come out. Now you can't buy cigarettes with food stamps. You can't buy beer with food stamps. But if you want to, let's say, get a can of ragu sauce because you make a spaghetti tonight with some noodles, or we didn't sell the meat, but we got the ragu sauce and the noodles. We had, you can get cold sandwiches in the back. You can't get hot sandwiches. That was like, if you take out the cigarettes and the beer, that was like 70 of our business, right? So you take away the food stamps away from the people in the neighborhood, you took away 60, 70% of my business. Now, why that's important? Now, I represent in that store one small business in a district, in a town, in a city, in a state, in the country. Multiply that by however many stores will have to shut down because they can't stay open because people don't have food stamps, so they can't afford to shop there. The local businesses is closing down if they take away millions in food stamps. The last number that we heard, I can't wait for Dion to come on. We got to get into this. The last number I heard, so what happened was, let's talk about this bill, right? Because that's what it is. It's this bill. So the bill went through the House of Representatives, the lower house in Congress. And in the lower house, it failed. There was like Republicans that did not argue with Trump under any circumstance were like, no. Five House reps was like, we're not doing this. We cannot get behind this bill. Five. Then, I'm sorry, I'm paying attention. I'm waiting on the Honorable Dion Powell to show up. I'm going to finish this and I'm going to check and see where he's at. He's out of the country right now. He's visiting Africa. He's hailing from there, MAGA district leader, and he's coming to talk tonight because this is such an important matter. He's very supportive of this bill. So, actually, I should check and see where he's at because what time is it? I don't want this to get past the hour. He's got a few minutes. So let's finish this because this, oh, wait, he did hit me. We're talking through WhatsApp because, he's out of the country and regular phones don't work. Okay, that's not him. Let me hit him. Make sure he knows that we're here. We spoke a couple hours ago. He said to hit him. It's difficult when you're in Africa because internet works differently than it does here. So it went through the House of Representatives. The House of Representatives, the senator, even the Republican senators was like, this Republican House reps was like, oh no, this bill is crazy. Like my constituents are going to lose benefits. So in order to understand how serious that is, California has the sixth largest GDP in the world. What that means in English is, well, first, what is GDP? It's gross domestic product. And those are some big fancy words that means all of your sales of goods and services, of things and the things you do, all your sales in a year. What is the number on that? What is the number for all of your sales in a year of goods and services? Gross domestic product. That's all it means. How much do you sell? So California having the sixth largest GDP in the world means they sell goods and services at the level of a country. They were the sixth biggest economy for selling goods and services in the world. Like, that means you call other countries, you call Iran, they might be high because they sell oil, but I don't think they're in the top 5%. I don't think they're in the top five. You Russia is not the top five. Their GDP is higher than Russia. Like, you're talking about the first two is the United States and China, right? We know that. United States is number one, China is number two. California, in and of itself, is six. So that state makes enough money to take care of itself. As a matter of fact, its surplus, the extra money it gets, subsidizes a lot of the rural areas, the red Republican states. The GDP, the goods and services that California sells, subsidizes red states, Republicans. These are numbers. You can argue it, you can feel a way about it, but numbers don't lie. People lie. You can lie about the numbers, but the numbers are they're the sixth largest GDP in the world. So the Feds start pulling money, they're not going to suffer as bad as a state like Missouri, let's say, who relies on the surplus that California makes to be able to support their state. What does that mean? What do I mean by that? So now, so the Feds pull money back, and now California's got to take care of themselves. With a GDP that large, they might be able to basically sustain themselves. But now they don't have a surplus. They don't got extra money because the federal government used to subsidize them. Now they don't. So now California's got to be a self-floating state because Trump is mad at them because they protect immigrants. So they take their money, like, y'all keeping our money. We got to use this to subsidize, to take care of our own people. We can't give you money back. So now the money's not going back to the government. Now the government doesn't have money for the states that can't wholly own, that don't have a GDP that rivals other countries on a scale like California does. Iowa is going to hurt. Hospitals are going to close. They don't have the GDP to sustain on their own. They rely on government subsidies. And that's a lot of red states. It's a lot of red rural areas. Because think about it. Here's why it is. Let me explain to you why that is. When I explain it to you, it's going to make so much sense. Because you're like, well, why are you saying that the red areas don't get the same money as the blue areas? You just saying that? But here's the game, right? So you grow up on a farmland, and farming doesn't make great money, but you can survive. Your kids grow up, and now you want to send them off to college. When they come back, when they go to college and they come back with that degree, generally now they got to move to a place, the big city, where they can find jobs to utilize that degree. Because that degree is not going to be sufficient for them to work in a rural area. They're not going to be, I mean, you can come back, you can be a doctor and work there. You can be a animal doctor and work on horses. I'm not saying that there are not jobs there. There are. However, if you're a tech mogul, you're probably going to want to move to a city that has more tech job opportunities. If you get the point. I have to go into a million explanations. Basically, people will leave the rural areas to go into the big cities to find jobs. So the people that generally have the money live in the bigger cities, while the rural areas still sustain themselves with farmland and all of that. I mean, you got your doctors, you got lawyers out there. I'm not trying to say they don't have that, but the big cities tend to have the bigger economies, the bigger jobs, the bigger pay scales. So because the cities have that and the rural areas don't, the majority of the money tends to be in the big cities, like, let's say, California, which has Tech City, which has Silicon Valley, which has Hollywood. Tech Valley and Hollywood is probably why the GDP is so high, by the way. While you go into Iowa and, they might shoot movies out there, but it's not Hollywood. You know what I mean? So based on that, the rural areas can't sustain themselves the same way. They don't make the money. They don't have the GDP. They don't have enough goods and services being sold outside of their region in order to be able to sustain Medicaid for their township, for their locality, for their state. If the federal government shuts down the supplements that they were getting for Medicaid at the federal level. So you take, I believe the number. All right, so let's go back because I skipped. Let's go back. So the bill was in the House of Reps, and in the House, five representatives was like, nah, this is a Friday. This was a Friday. Five representatives. I think this was the 10th, 11th, 12th. I think it was Friday the 12th, if I'm not mistaken. They was like, we can't support this. No, it was before my birthday, so it doesn't matter. It was a Friday. On that Friday, they was like, nah, we can't do this. This bill is going to hurt too many of our constituents. We can't afford to pay for it. Our place, our state, our city, our locality doesn't have the GDP. This will kill our constituents. Five representatives back down. Saturday, Trump walks in, closes the door. We don't know what happens on the inside. It's a closed door. He walks out, press conference, cameras on his face, microphones on his face. What did they say? What's going on? What's going on? I think we got this. I don't see a problem. So that's Saturday. Sunday, an emergency hearing is called about this bill. So what happens during this meeting on this bill on this Sunday? The Democrats are like, yo, we can't pass the bill. Why are we doing this? Why are we here? Republicans are like, nah, we're going to pass the bill. We made some changes. We good. The Dems are like, you made some changes. What you do? Republicans are like, don't worry about it. We got this. We good. The Democrats are like, so you want us to vote again on a bill that we haven't seen? Republicans are like, yeah. I got a good feeling we'll pass. Don't worry about it. The Dems are like, they quoted some law. They only said it one time. I missed exactly what the law was, but basically it was like, we're not voting on a bill that we don't know the amendments to. We're not voting on it. So they went through all of the steps to read that bill. It was horrific. That bill is terrible. We're going to get into some of the bad things in that bill. And the Senate was like, and the House of Representatives, the Republicans in the House were like, all right, so now it's time to vote. Now, 5 reps jumped ship during the first vote. 5 of them voted against it. 4 of them started to. The 5th one was like, yo, they're voting against it. I'm voting against it too. So 5 flipped and joined the Dems on voting against the bill, shutting the bill down. They could only afford to lose 3 votes. That was that Friday. Saturday, Trump went to them. Sunday, after all of that, they voted again. 4 House representatives abstained. That means they wouldn't vote on it. They were like, nah, I can't put my name on record for this bill. We're not going to vote against it. I don't know what Trump said. You can probably guess. Well, Primarying is when someone is running for office and your own team tries to put somebody against you and they back somebody else. So Trump is like, we'll primary you. Basically, he's saying, we'll take somebody else and put him to run against you and put the money behind him, and you're out of a job. Now, these people make $120,000, $130,000 a year. They're not trying to lose their jobs. I wouldn't be trying to lose my job at $130,000 a year as a House of Representative rep. So he threatens to primary them or whatever he did behind closed doors. He threatens the primary threats he did on TV, on camera, on Truth Social, and on X. At that point, he was still dealing with Elon Musk. It was on X. So 4 abstained, and probably the one that flips back because 1 vote went back toward supporting the bill. And lo and behold, the bill passed that Sunday. So Friday they said no. Saturday Trump talked to him. Sunday the bill gets flipped. And it goes on and moves on to Senate, which is where it sits now. And Senate's had a lot of problems with this bill. Like some people wanted to make it worse. It went from $350 billion in cuts to Medicaid to the number that's floating right now. They're literally sitting there reading the bill. The Democrats made them read this bill. The Democrats would not allow them to just pass this bill. They're trying to pull every trick out of the bag they can to stop this big bad bill from passing and becoming law. Because Trump is going to sign it if it passes. So the House is making them read the entire bill. And they've been doing it all day. And they've made amendments to it. The House of Representatives wanted more cuts to Medicaid. They wanted more cuts to SNAP. They wanted more cuts to the environmental protection. They don't want green energy. I can understand, all right, so y'all want fossil fuels. A lot of people might support fossil fuels in that arena because you're talking about people that own gas companies and oil, and they own oil and coal, and they own the fossil fuels. Or if they don't own them, then they're giving money, the senators that is, are given money by these people in order for them to vote in favor of the laws that will support, let's say, coal over clean energy. That's why Elon Musk flipped out. That's the reason. You want to know why Elon Musk flipped? Here's what happened. Here's the real reason. Under Biden, clean energy was a push, and Tesla led the way. I'm not an Elon Musk fan. Don't like the man. Can't stand him. But credit where it's due. Elon Musk led the way on clean energy. I am a single father, and my daughter is standing there. I'm sorry, give me one moment. Yes, I am.
There's a fly in my room.
Get your sister. Tell her I'm in alive. I apologize about that. But Elon Musk led the way. Every company got electric cars now. When Elon Musk started, he was a visionary. No one had a vision like him. He led the way with electric cars, and this country supported him. Some people even call it welfare for the rich. This country dumped more contracts in that man's pocket than Medicaid. I'm not going to go that far. That's an exaggeration. But what happened was this country supports Elon Musk by giving him government contracts. Government contracts are very difficult to get your hands on. You have to go to sam.gov. You got to sign up to do a lot of stuff. I've worked on government contracts. It's very, very, very difficult to get a government contract. And we're being joined by the Honorable Dion Powell. I just admitted him. I don't know why he's not here. And here we are, ladies and gentlemen. And this man here taught me everything I know about government contracting. So it's ironic that he came in now. That is not a Trump hat. And you have no sound. And you have no sound. Oh, there you go. Now I hear you. The sound is not that clear. The sound is terrible. And it's alive, so I can't even sweeten the sound. You are coming through muffled. I don't understand a word that you were saying. So while he's doing that, so Elon gets all his money from government contracts for, let's say, electric cars, as you know, and he gets these tax breaks, these immense, monumental tax breaks, because the government wants electric cars under Joe Biden. We're clean energy, we're green energy, we want these electric cars. So he's getting all these, we're talking about billions of dollars worth of tax breaks while he pumps electric cars onto the road. But that is the thing at the time. It's about electric cars. They want that. So
And
he gets all of these, he gets monumental
oh,
amounts of money from our government. Give me one moment. You with us now?
yeah, can you hear me clearly? Because I had it on mute. That's why.
All right, you're a little tinny, but it'll do for now. It's
No,
nine
no,
o'clock,
so
so we need to get started. Well, I'm gonna finish what I was saying, then we can go because I was literally in the middle. So he gets all these tax breaks. So the reason he flips is because Trump is like, nah, we don't need clean energy. Ain't no such thing as pollution. Science isn't real. Don't worry about pollution. EPA, what's that? Here's what's gonna happen. We got clean coal. We're gonna push clean coal. We got oil. We're gonna push oil. So they're going to end, we're going to get into this a little later. They're going to end the programs that supported Elon Musk. At the end of the year in America, there's going to be no more clean energy programs. So it's going to be the programs that they're doing, the tax breaks, everything is going to be for fossil fuels, the stuff that doesn't cause pollution, and it's all fake news about pollution. There's no such thing as global warming. It's all a lie. Because that's what the present administration says, literally, verbatim. And so because of that, now Elon Musk isn't getting the tax breaks, which is going to cost him billions and billions of dollars. That's why Elon Musk has turned against Trump and that bill. It's literally going to cost, even though the tax breaks is going to save him billions, nowhere near the amount of money he was getting on tax breaks for those fossil fuels anyway. I mean, for his green energy cars. Anyway, we got Dion Powell in. We're going to get started. Welcome to the think tank, where we use deductive reasoning. Oh man, I messed up. I done rambled on so much. I'm going to do this again. All right. Welcome to the think tank. We use deductive reasoning, creative thinking, and a pinch of common sense to draw unbiased, logical conclusions. You're here once again today with us on our Sunday 9 p.m. live. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Glad to have you. If you're a returning guest, thanks for coming back. I'm here with my co-host, the Honorable Dion Powell. Would you like to introduce yourself in case there are people here who don't know who you are?
Kwaba from here in Ghana, family. Can you hear me now, Leo? Clearly, distinctly?
You're very echoey, but we can make your voice out.
Sorry about that, family. I'm at the Volta region here in Ghana, and I'm district leader Dion Powell, consultant, and right now trying to escape from this dirty political climate here in Africa. No more psych wars for me. We're just clean up Africa. Sorry about the echo, but this is the Wi-Fi we have here in the countryside of Ghana.
So you said you're a district leader?
Yes, pro bono elected official in the Bronx. You can too. Shout out to certain platforms because Leo doesn't, I can't. But there's certain platforms out there in which you guys can run for these pro bono roles and county committee, judicial delegate, because judges are elected. So if you know any lawyer that served in New York City for at least 10 years, send me on, and I can make him a judge. The paperwork's right there.
So that's the Bronx, New York you serve. So you represent the blue state of Bronx, New York as a MAGA conservative.
Yes, and the Bronx Conservative Party, the 78th Assembly District to be specific.
Okay, I just wanted people to know who you were because I noticed since you didn't mention all of that, we lost like a couple of hundred people, and I think they're like, what is this dude in Ghana got to do with politics? Like I think that's why they left. So that's why I wanted to clarify that you're visiting and that you are a representative in the Bronx, New York, in America. You're just visiting out there. I just wanted to put
Yes,
that out
and
there. So,
some of our MAGA people actually, like me, I'm very rare. I actually go to Africa. Unlike some people on the blue team who talk about their life that have never been to Africa.
well, are you of African descent?
I'm only my great grandmother on my father's side is from an island called Anguilla. Other than that, I'm from slave stock.
Slave stock.
What do you call it, Leo? Foundational Black America, American descendants of slavery, ADOS, FBAs.
Well, I don't know what to call it. I think we should just. Did I hit the wrong button here? All right. I don't want to miss anybody if they're trying to talk with us. All right. Retalian wants to know, what do we think? Is the bill really beautiful or just political branding?
Well, we all know Trump is very good at marketing. And unfortunately, I have to agree that between him and George W., when it comes to public speaking, he has some difficulty. He puts the words his way, and that's it. So think about Leo, George W. speaking versus Trump speaking. Who did it better? So let that sink in. And just like a lot of things he brands, it sticks in your mind. And because of the hatred of Donald Trump, you're always going to say big, beautiful bill. It's just going to resonate.
Donald Trump is the best salesman on earth, more than likely, in my opinion. He's a marketing genius like no other. Like, man's mind is astounding when it comes to marketing. However, if we're talking about the big bad bill,
Beautiful.
they're calling it the big terrible bill, they have a bunch of different names for it. I call it the big bad bill because it's very simple. You look at it, and the basics of the bill is nothing is being done for the poor. They said, we're going to give tax breaks on tips and overtime and Social Security. There's no tax break for Social Security. It's nowhere in the bill. The tax breaks for overtime and tips are good for 2 years and they disappear. Everything else for anybody under $150,000 a year is cuts. Meanwhile, there is an extension of tax breaks for the wealthy. The more money you make, the more better that tax break is for you. That go on forever and ever and ever. The cuts don't end. The only way that those cuts will ever end is if the country ends or somebody ratifies the bill. So this big bad bill does nothing for anyone but the rich. It hurts everybody else. Only the rich benefit. Do you have another way of looking at that bill?
Well,
Or are you going to whip out a Trump hat?
Unfortunately, my girl took my Trump hats and some other stuff. So, yeah. So the thing is, Leo, I have a hard time articulating and arguing against some of the points you made in the beautiful bill, other than what's on the surface, which is no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, and some other nuances. And also the correlation with the, let's say, the stock market and stock exchange and those billionaires, as it were, who are going up as a result of the support bill, and also the tariffs, things of that nature. But the big beautiful bill, it may have some hiccups. Some Republicans are pushing back. There's a Republican that resigned, actually, who won't seek re-election, rather, because of the bill. So it's very controversial.
You got guys quitting. Now, I'm not saying the bill's bad, but how much do I make a year? 170,000 ain't worth it. Wow, bro. Wow. I'm not doing it. I can't. My grandparents is on this, right? My grandparents rely on Medicare. I can't support this bill. I get it. I definitely get it. I'm not saying my grandparents. Unfortunately, I don't have a grandparent that's still here. I'm saying it. I'm looking at the Republicans like, yo, I quit. That's crazy. Like, I don't like. I am myself. I can't even do this. Like, I can't I can't look myself in the mirror in the morning. That's wild. You're welcome, Ratian. All right. So let's get into this. What are some of the things that we said about this? Republicans in the Senate are going to vote on the bill. All right, we went through that. So one of the things that has surfaced and been circling around is 1 out of every 4 nursing homes would have to close if this bill passes.
Right.
25% is a big number. That's crazy. When you're scratching the surface and the first thing you see is a quarter of the nursing homes are going to have to close. As a MAGA supporter, how do you reconcile this reconciliation?
Well, that's unfortunate, but I make politics local and say, well, thanks to King Cuomo, who just lost a primary here in New York City, my aunt, they're in the nursing home during the COVID lockdown. So besides that, Medicaid, like a lot of things in our systems, a lot of people have become dependent on, unfortunately.
Okay,
And
but you just jump subjects. We'll get to Medicaid, but I don't think Medicaid has much to do with nursing homes.
well, this says it here. It says because of the cuts in Medicaid, um, where is it? Damn it. I just had it. That because Medicaid pays into a lot of these things. Let's see. What do
Well,
we
okay,
do?
so we're not that far down, right? So elderly people receive Medicare.
Medicare, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Medicaid is a completely different beast we have to tackle
Sorry,
later.
I'm sorry, I misheard you.
Yeah, you good. So, like, we didn't even get to Medicaid. We're talking about a quarter of the. We didn't get to Medicaid, and a quarter of the nursing homes will have to close.
Right, that's
As a
not good.
MAGA enthusiast, how do you support Trump? And the only people that'll benefit from the money, they're not going to take the money and put it back in for the American people. They're going to take the money and give tax breaks to the rich. How do you reconcile that?
Unfortunately, my research hasn't really had anything to really refute what you're saying, Leo. But again, just like immigration, we just have to wait and see, unfortunately. But again, the deadline is July 4th to get this done, which is this week coming up. So we'll see if we can meet the president's deadline, you know.
All right. Well, they forced the reading of the bill. Republicans was trying to push the bill like, we just gonna vote for it. And Dems is like, no. Hold on, wait. Order. You wallet. What's in this bill? Oh yeah, we made a couple of changes. Don't worry about it. No. This isn't the House of Representatives. No. What's in this bill? And the Democrats are making them read it. The entire bill. I caught a few hours of it today. There are major changes. One such change is when before there was about $350 billion of cuts to the Medicaid system. Now it's about $1 trillion in cuts. Like, yo, the read was crazy. The read was crazy. It was like, what? Well, it'll go up to 4% this year and 5% next year and 4% the year after that and 6% by 2030. I'm like, what? Like, yo, you just said about 30% cuts.
Well, keep in mind, Leo, unfortunately, as the saying goes, it's not what you say, but how you say it. The president, unfortunately, is not following the rules of the game. And he's just thinking, in my opinion, that we should cut these programs to make people not dependent on it and more self-sufficient, and also make sure they could push more into the private sector as opposed to the public sector and be dependent on some of these free handouts, as they say. Now, mind you, there should be an effective transition, but again, he just ripping the bandage off ripping the bandage off. Excuse me.
I'm going to push back on that. There are too many people that work their butts off, that work 2 jobs and can't afford medical care. So ripping that bandage off is not, what is that supposed to do? When 40% of Americans, probably a lot higher than that, work at least 1 job, more than that, more higher percentage that work 2 jobs, at least a job and a half, do Uber on the side, do all of that, and still can't afford healthcare. You're going to take healthcare away from all of these hardworking people?
Well, it looks that way. Unfortunately, again, it's just like Obamacare. It's going to have to be a transition. But President Trump is just steamrolling through. A lot of people don't like that. And there's no real clear transition. So that's the only problem that I see. What is the alternative is the big question.
Hold up, we got a few comments. I want to take a look at the comments. I'll get back. Thanks for reading my comment. Next up, Trump's huge, handsome healthcare act.
Okay.
Oh man, thank you, Emily. That's gold. I'm going through some of the things in the bill, Beatmaster. You'll get to hear some of the things. I've already covered the cuts to Medicaid. We're going to go into Medicare. We're going to go into a couple other things that's disastrous in this bill. They call it the big disastrous bill. They call it the big trade. They say some word that means traitor. They got a lot of words for it. There's a reason. Is it going to pass both chambers? That's what we're waiting to find out. We're not sure. We can't possibly know. They're trying to push it through Senate again. If it
By July
manages to go
4th,
through,
the deadline. The
if it
president's
goes through,
deadline.
if it gets through Senate with the ratifications, with the changes that they made, then it has to go back to the House of Representatives, and they have to approve the changes. It's not a straight cut through. It's already made it past the House in the original form. Does anyone know how this bill will affect taxes on or immigration? Taxes on overtime and tips will be cut for 2 years. The rich are going to get tax breaks forever, and then taxes continuously go up. Immigration, they're going to give ICE agents, what is it, $100,000 a year, $100,000 bonus for every
Right.
single agent, and they're going to try and get to the point where they're getting 3,000 immigrants a day. They're building a moat. We're going to get into a little bit of that later because some of that stuff is crazy too. Welcome back, Robert. No one
Oh,
negotiates
let me
better
check
than
the chat
Trump.
out
That's
too.
true.
Damn.
I'm sorry.
No, I said I'm gonna check out the chat too. I'm sorry about that, family.
Can you get this bill in gold letters with a Trump logo? Emily's funny. Sounds like a WWE wrestler. Well, he used to be a WWE actor. He's appeared there. He's an incredible performer. And that's what you're looking at when you see him, a performance. So,
Right.
and even MAGA knows, like, but he's great at it. What do you want? Like, he's good at it. It's terrible for the country because they believe in nonsense. Democrats forced the reading of the bill so people can hear how bad it is. Yeah. So they're reading it right now. They're still reading this bill. And they're talking because there's a lot of ratifications. And without presently listening to everything that's going through the bill, I don't know all of the ratifications, but it's gone from $340 billion in cuts to healthcare, to Medicaid alone, to $1 trillion. $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts. And what are they going to do with the money? Tax breaks for the wealthy. So basically, we're going to cut out 15 million families health care to give Google and Amazon tax cuts. Wow. And I can't express how awful that is. Oh,
Well,
there's a tax break. Go ahead.
theoretically, sometimes the strategy is giving these tax breaks to the rich, as it were, the owners, or to certain tax bracket, is supposed to stimulate the economy and hire more jobs and deregulate things. That's some of the Trump doctrine, as it were.
Yes, I call that trumped up trickle down economics. Why do I say that? What is trickle down economics? Well, trickle down economics was a theory that was conceived in the 1980s by President Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan sold the concept that if the rich were to be able to get these tax breaks and put more money in their pockets, they would hire more people and give increased pay to their employees, and the money would trickle down. The rich got richer. None of that happened. Trump tried it again in his first term. That's when I coined the term trumped up trickle down economics, because when Reagan was doing it, the trickle down economics was coined as Reaganomics. If anybody remembers Reaganomics from the 80s, that's what it was. It was trickle down economics.
Another
The rich get,
Republican.
what's up?
Another Republican, by the way.
Yes, the Republicans work for the rich. Right. So no, that is not going to work. That is the concept he's feeding to people, but it's a lie. It's never worked, it never will work. Rich people are not going to be like, I got more money, I'm a share. If they was going to if the richest man in the world had all that money and he's not paying his people and they're complaining and they want to form unions right now, Well, Jeff Bezos is the second richest man now. I'm sorry. Right now, people are complaining at Amazon right this moment because he won't pay them. Giving him more money is going to do what? That's stupid. More comments. Great branding, but what's actually inside the bill? Big, beautiful, tremendous, just like vocabulary. Any legal experts here to break down is what this bill actually changes? Well, I'm not a legal expert. That would really fall more on the Dion, but he didn't really read the bill like I did. So you're going to have to rely on my limited expertise.
Yeah,
And
just like most of the politicians, I didn't read most of it, but I had the outline in front of me. But some of the issues you're bringing up are new to me because when it was in the House, these items weren't just popping out. So in the Senate, they're popping out more so. So that's why I find very interesting from the media.
well, I actually sat and listened to them in Congress reading the bill. So it's not like, the media is pushing it. It's just on CNN and all you got to do is tune in. But you're not in America, so right now, so you don't know what's going
This is
on.
why I'm trying to leave America. How about that?
But the Democrats forced them to read the entire bill because they were trying to push it without anybody reading it. So one thing, they're trying to give tax breaks to anybody that buys American cars.
Yeah, that's what I said before.
It would take, so if you're buying $112,000 worth of a car, you get $1,000 rebate. I'm sorry, a $10,000 rebate. My bad. If you spend $112,000, you get a $10,000 rebate. Anything less than that, you're not getting the full rebate. So if you want to go out and buy a $112,000 car, American made steel, go for it. Other than that, that rebate is really kind of like only for the rich. No state and local tax. Well, that's what it is. That's what it is. No state and local tax deduction, SALT. So no state and local tax. They wanted them to raise the state and local tax deductions, things that would affect people that actually filled out the long form on taxes. Because if you don't fill out the long form, if you just fill out the easy 40, whatever it is, the 1040 easy joint, this don't apply to you. This is only for people that like have property or business or something like that. If you have a house, this will affect you. They wanted to raise it from 10,000 to 40,000, and Mega Mike promised them this, like, "Yo, I got you," except for he didn't, and it's not in the bill. So, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, lasts for 2 years. State and local tax gets cut right away. Medicaid is $1 trillion cut. So why is Medicaid having $1 trillion cut such a big deal?
Well, like I
Who
said, he's
benefits
trying
from the
to
bill?
rip the bandage off the dependency on public health care. Because remember, this goes back to Obamacare. And for me, that affected me because if you don't have health insurance, you have to pay a penalty. So,
Right. So if there's an 80-hour a week work requirement. They'll check it, right? So a lot of people work full time because 35 hours is considered full time, right? So if you work 37 hours, you're a full time employee. 35
I thought it
hours is
was 40
considered full
hours,
time.
no?
No.
35, really? We doing that?
Okay. Let's go to Google AI. Hold on, what's happening here? You having a hard time getting this? Was you?
Dear AI, how
Um.
many hours to make full time?
Oh, you got this one?
No, I thought you had it already. Let me go.
Oh, nah, I'm good. Because I want to be sure we're on the same numbers. It might be 37. It might not be. It's not 40. How many hours is considered full time? Oh, this says 40 hours, but some employees may consider 32 to 40 hours. So they can give
Well,
you
I think
32
the
hours.
35 comes from the tricks the businesses do, so they don't have to pay certain not entitlements, but certain benefits, because now they're making freaking paternity leave, more workers' rights. So I don't know the definition of full time, because if you have
I
full time,
see.
that guarantees certain benefits.
All right, so you could be working a job. The job consider you full time at 38 hours, and they don't want to give you 40 hours because they don't want to give you certain benefits, right? So what just happened? Now you don't make the work requirements for Medicaid. So many of these jobs won't give you 40 hours. They consider you full time, so they're not going to give you benefits, and you can't get benefits from Medicaid because you have to work 40 hours. How many people working full time just get kicked off because of the games? And you think that when they're writing these bills, they don't know this?
Actually, I don't. I think they're lobbyists and people that line their pockets do, just like APAC.
100% agree. The lobbyists, the people that put money into the senators and House of Representatives, into the pockets of the people that make decisions, the lobbyists, the people that slide money into their pockets, trying to convince them to make laws that benefit them, lobbyists, know that we not giving these guys full time or 40 hours. We're giving them 38 hours. We're considering it overtime. But we still want you to cut the Medicaid if they don't have 40 hours. That's
Well,
what's
this is
happening.
why the filibuster, in my opinion, may be important, even though the Democrats want to get rid of it, Republicans sometimes want to get rid of it, because they actually read the bill aloud. And most of the time, these elected officials, even though some of them are older than decrepit, they don't even read the bills. They get like a summary page, something like that. So these things are hundreds of pages. You know what I mean? They just
It's
try to push it through.
962 pages, I believe.
How many?
964 pages.
Huh?
I think it's 964 pages.
Right, that sounds about right, yeah.
So basically, you can read War and Peace. Like,
War and Peace, really?
we're talking about a very large book.
You read that? Not me.
But
Cliff notes, baby, Cliff
that's
notes.
over 1,000
You
pages.
need Cliff notes, remember that?
I actually like to read. I was reading books. I like to read. So the Senate parliamentarian Elizabeth, since 2012, ruled that because the bill has more than fiscal portions attached, that it can't be used as reconciliation. It's the Byrd rule. That was a lot of big words. That was like, yo,
Yes,
what the
indeed.
heck does any of that mean? So we got to break that down a little bit, right? The Senate parliamentarian makes decisions over certain aspects of Congress. It's a sole office. It's not really a parliament. It's a sole person that has discretion over certain fiduciary money stuff, right? So she ruled that the bill has more than fiscal portions. Breakdown of that is real simple. The bill dealt with more than just money. So it can't be used as reconciliation. Reconciliation being the big, bad, big word in this. Because a bill can be filibustered. It can be busted down. They can take it and make them run through a whole bunch of hoops with a filibuster. But a reconciliation bill doesn't have to jump through them hoops. It can't be filibustered.
Right.
So she ruled. I'm saying what it is, and I'm breaking it down to make it so that everybody understands real quick, so everybody's on the same page. Those are a lot of big words. Those are a lot of big words. I got to break out my dictionary. I got a headache listening to reading this. So they made it so that they went to reconciliation with the bill. They made it so that they don't have to jump through hoops, so that they could just pass it right away. Shorty was like, yo, hold up, time out. In order for a bill to be reconciliation, in order for y'all to avoid them hoops, you can only do that with the budget. But y'all talking about doing wild stuff in this bill. You're talking about climate change and pollution, and y'all talking about changing, like, the bill is 964 pages. I can't tell you everything in the bill. They're still reading it. They started at like 8 o'clock last night, literally. So no, I don't know every part of the bill. I'm still in the meeting, honey. You can't interrupt while I'm in the meeting, honey. See your sister. Let me work.
I heard a baby voice.
Bye, Ava.
Oh, I thought it was from you.
Single dad, we love him.
Single dad works. Don't judge me. I do my best. I'm a single father of an 8-year-old girl, and I do everything that I can. I raised a sister too.
Well,
But my daughter also.
as they say in parent criminal justice, if you can't do the time, then don't do the crime.
Ouch. That one stung. So that's what it is. So she said, nah, y'all gonna jump through these hoops because you can't just put all this stuff, because that's what he did. The big beautiful bill is a bunch of bills put together. It's a bunch of stuff he put all into one bill, trying to pass the worst parts off with some good stuff, like no tips on overtime, which he tried to sell, but it only lasts till, what is that, 2027. And no tax on tips,
Well,
which only sells, which
I just
expires in
like to give
2027.
I just like to give a shout out to the Senate parliamentarian because I'm a member of the National Association of Parliamentarians, Robert's Rules of Order. The reason these people exist because you have to have a certain mechanism of rules everybody has to follow in order for the, let's say, the deliberative body or the assembly to have certain rights in order to access and push these bills and not be violated by the executive branch and just be steamrolled, you know?
So you're one of the people that guard against the executive branch just doing what they want. And that's what the Senate parliamentarian does. They make sure that they can't just come in and say, yo, these are the rules that we're going to go by and that's what we're doing. That's what you're saying?
Right, that and also the speaker or the majority leader or just anybody for that matter. Because here you have to understand simple majority sometimes doesn't rule. Sometimes it's two-third votes. Sometimes the minority of the representatives, not democracy, have to have more leeway in their rights to have speak up, you know? So that's where Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedures come into play.
How would the media react to this mixed of bias? It depends on the media outlet. Right-wing people are reacting like they want the bill to pass. Left-wing people are fighting against it. It's nothing changed. It's always the same thing. If you're Fox News, you're pro-Trump for the most part. If you're CNN, you're against Trump for the most part. And that partisan divide is going to exist regardless of what the subject material, whatever they're talking about is.
Well,
Let's
not
see if this gets
necessarily,
blocked like
because keep
everything
in
else.
mind that when it comes to SALT, like in New York, you have some Republicans that exist in blue states that have to save their own skins. As I said before, a Republican is actually dropping out of the Senate as a result of this bill getting pushed through. You know, they don't see no path to victory in their primary, if they're going to be primary or their general election, because they live in like some sort of swing state, you know?
Or they live in a completely red state, which is going to get hit harder than the actual blue states. Because, like I was saying earlier, let's take California, the sixth largest GDP in the world. And I was explaining that GDP, gross domestic product, again, a bunch of big words. All it means is everything you sell, goods and services in a year. Everything you sell in a year, goods and services, everything you sell, GDP in a year. That's it. That's all GDP is, good gross domestic product. And they have the sixth largest GDP in the world. I mean, if they were a country, they would have the sixth largest GDP. So United States is the first largest, China's the second, they're like six. So they can afford for the federal government to be like, yo, we're cutting Medicaid. Yo, they got Hollywood, they got what is Tech City called? They got oh
San
man, I just said it earlier.
Francisco,
I'm sorry,
then you
Silicon
have
Valley.
LA,
They have Silicon
they
Valley.
have Compton.
They have Silicon Valley and Hollywood. If
Okay.
the government decides that they're going to cut Medicaid, they're going to be like, oh man, what are we going to do? All right, we got to dip into our piggy bank. And they're not going to have as much money to give back to the government. And because they don't have the money to give back to the government, they are no longer going to be able to subsidize the red states that require the extra assistance to provide Medicaid for their people, like Missouri, Iowa, or what have you. So the red states are going to suffer more. I was saying earlier, like I was just explaining to you, I was like, yo, if you live in a red state, if you live in the country, I mean, and you survive as a farmer, you make ends meet, you barely getting by, but you make it, and you get your kid off to college, and they get that tech degree, they're not coming back to the farm. They're gonna move into the big city, they're gonna get a big city job, and they're gonna be out there. So a lot of the money, the big money is in the blue states, in the big cities. The red states don't have, I mean, you got your doctors, you got your lawyers, there's money out there. It's definitely money. Ask Tony Busby. But the larger economy is going to be in the cities where the tech is, where the things that this country does that provides the most money thrives. New York City, things like that. So in the rural areas where there's not as much money, they don't have the same amount of health benefits and things like that. So Medicaid being taken away is going to hurt them more. Rural areas, red counties are going to lose more. And because of that, the senators that represent those counties, these red counties, are terrified because you're talking about Trump talking about primarying them, taking their jobs away, running somebody against them that's going and putting money behind them to make sure they lose their job, that they're not going to be a representative anymore for their state as a senator, primary. He's talking about taking their jobs away from them. And then you're like, so pass this bill, but the bill's like, cut Medicaid, cut the health benefits to 5 million of your people, and there's only 20 million people in your state, and try and win again. The bill says stuff like originally when the bill was in the House of Representatives, it was estimated that between $240 between $240 and $420 would be the increase in the price of energy for your home. So your annual energy can go up $500,000. And then Senate got their hands on it, and the numbers became far, far worse. I didn't even get to finish hearing all of the stuff they were saying. It got bad.
Well, again, when it comes to energy, this is why they're big on us getting our energy here and not from abroad. So, like you mentioned earlier, I think clean coal, you said. So some of these things have fracking. They want to bring back fracking here in New York if a Republican wins. So that's what I got to say about energy.
Great, because pollution doesn't exist. Science isn't real. Let's just destroy the ozone layer, guys, because it wasn't getting hot last week. It's not getting worse. There's no tornadoes. Let's cut, what is it? FEMA? We don't need FEMA. That's in the bill. We don't need them. Let's hack FEMA. What is FEMA good for? All they do is make sure that people that go through disasters get money. We don't need them.
Just like North Carolina, FEMA can be politicized. Under the previous administration, when the hurricane hit North Carolina, remember, they held up some of that money from and resources from going to some of the red areas of the state because North Carolina is a swing state. You see what I'm saying? So again, President Trump wants to put that emergency money on the ground, meaning localities who know their neighborhoods and their systems, as opposed to a federal agency coming in and taking over with the Army Corps of Engineers, for example, who are from out of town.
That's exactly wrong. Actually, what he says is he wants his office to be able to, he doesn't want a middleman. He wants to be able to determine if you get relief. And we've seen what he does to his enemies. If you're a political enemy, if you're a state that's a political enemy, don't expect relief if he passes this bill.
Well, again, in politics, just like he's going after Republicans, he's going after Democrats. So as the saying goes, everybody can get it.
So authoritarian. The House bill adds $5 trillion to debt. That's one thing that's in the bill. Somebody was asking this in the bill. That's $5 trillion. So in order to avoid going under like any of Trump's other businesses, in order to avoid going under, he literally just wants to be like, well, now we're taking it away. You don't have to ever worry about it again. We can go as high as we want. There's no debt ceiling. We can just borrow. Because that's what we have to do to give these tax breaks to the rich. We have to erase the debt ceiling. Right now we're only at like
that's
3.4.
why he's going after the Secretary of Treasury, the director of what's that guy's name that he's trying to fire from the Treasury Department? Let me see. Remember, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I don't. You're not talking about Powell.
Yeah, Powell, yeah.
He's going after Jerome Powell.
By the way.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't get the name with that kind of a name. It was kind of like, okay.
Duh.
All right. So he said he wasn't going after him. Now you're saying he is. I find that to be quite interesting. The House bill adds $5 trillion in debt. Right now, we're only like 3.4 trillion, which is an unsustainable amount. Conservatives and Republicans have been known to be the ones that try to reel in the budget for since before I was born. I'm 50. And that was up until Trump got into office. Matter of fact, you had conservatives saying they didn't want to vote for the bill because it raised the ceiling. He wants to raise the debt ceiling and it's going
Right,
to
because that's
increase.
the concept called fiscal responsibility.
That apparently someone who bankrupts all of his businesses has no concept of. And if you want to argue it, look at the bill where he wants to erase the debt ceiling. He wants to erase the debt. In other words, he just wants to keep borrowing. Yo, for the first time in the history of this country, while this man is sitting in office, the United States got a negative, lost a point on their ratings, on their, what is the word? I'm missing it. Oh my
As
gosh, I
opposed
can't.
to the previous administration, which just printed money after COVID, after Trump left, just kept printing
Well,
money.
wait a minute, time out. So you're saying Trump didn't print money? I'm not even gonna dignify that.
Printing money more so. Okay, that's because once again I got to give the disclaimer: economics is not my strong suit. So again, printing money of the previous administration, raising the debt ceiling. The thing is, language is very key here. Changing definitions of words like inflation, stagflation, all these things to keep people out, keep people in.
Inflation means prices are going up. We don't right now. That is a terrifying thing because anybody who lives in the United States knows prices is going up and won't deal with that. Stagflation means that there's no more, the jobs are not growth, there's no job growth, and we have inflation. Prices are going up, people are not making more money. But since Trump has been in office, using the same principles he used for business, for the first time in the history of this country, we were put down by the credit bureaus. This country's credit is no longer as good as it was. That's never happened before. This is Trump. This is how he runs a business. It's how he's running the country. No debt ceiling. He said not to worry about the fact that our credit dropped for the first time ever and wants to erase the debt ceiling and borrow more money to give tax breaks to the rich.
But just a sidebar, Leo, aren't you concerned that they haven't raised the fact that China is buying up all our credit, our debt?
Okay. This is where having a little bit of knowledge about money comes into play. So the United States debt, when the United States owes money, it has to pay it off, right? So there's something they do called bonds. And other countries and very rich people buy these bonds and they get their money back plus what's called the yield. The yield is kind of like the interest rate. So they get their money back plus interest. They get their bond plus the yield, right? One of the largest holders of US bonds in the world before Trump got into office was China. That hasn't changed. Actually, they started selling US debt off when our credit went down, which caused more inflation. That's what happened. And they're not the only country that Japan started selling off, which is a huge US bond holder. Like, that's how the economy worked. So I don't know what you're talking about, but what really happened
Again,
was
economics is not my strong suit, so I'm pulling words out of the air.
people started selling US bonds and sureties because the United States, our credit's no good no more because of Trump. Our credits went down because of Trump. That's never happened before, ever, in the history of this country, ever. And
Trump's
he wants
still
to.
making history.
Oh, he sure is. He wants to. I don't think I can explain how bad taking away the debt ceiling is. The only thing that keeps this country from borrowing too much money and becoming a third world country is the fact you can't borrow but so much. And it's a self-imposed restriction. That restriction is called the debt ceiling. We can't borrow past this. That's the rules. He was like, yo, we don't need that. He bankrupts his businesses doing the same thing. Let's just keep borrowing money and then we can't pay it back. That's how he goes bankrupt. This is what he does. He's trying to do that to the country right now. He's
No
trying
matter
to
how
bankrupt the
hard you
country.
yell it, people like me
Woo!
are
Sorry,
still going to
ladies and
support
gentlemen.
Trump
I
other
am
than the other
emotional about
option we
this.
had in November.
This is what's in this big bad bill. He
There
wants
we
to take away the
go.
debt ceiling and use the fact that we don't have to pay the money, that we can borrow as much money as we want to give the money to rich people. Like, Disney, nope, Disney's going under. Can't say them. Amazon and Google are still my go-tos. All right, what else is going on? Farmers are actually going to be hit the hardest by the SNAP. Well, the individual people that don't have SNAP, obviously, right? Because, the single mom down the block who's not as lucky as me to be able to work and be able to maintain and doesn't have the support, can't get food stamps to feed her 3-year-old son. She probably going to get hit hard. And with tens of millions of dollars in food stamp cuts and a work requirement of 40 hours a week, as we spoke about the work requirements where some jobs won't give you past 32, 34, 35 hours. So now you can work what's called full time and you can't get SNAP benefits and you can't get health insurance. So now you're starving and sick. Because that's and all of that so that the rich can get richer, because all of that while we're giving tax breaks for the rich. I don't understand why the rich needs these tax breaks, but the poor struggling people that bust their behinds working 36, 37 hours a week, 38 hours a week can't get benefits, so that the guys that have all the money can get more money. What are they going to do with that extra money? Like, how many yachts can you own, as they like to say in the Dem side?
Right. Unfortunately, you're correct in the sense that this is Reaganomics 2.0 with that level of thinking. But again, oh, excuse me, it's with a cock in the water here in Ghana. Sorry. President Trump has a lot of rich friends, but even if Elon Musk is pushing back on this bill, that's another, the world's richest man, it's saying something. It can't be making everybody happy across the board.
Well, that's because his money came from Tesla. That's what really blew him up. He owned a couple other things. I use PayPal sparingly and not enthusiastically. As one of the people in this chat would tell you, I do not like PayPal. But Elon Musk.
I don't like PayPal
Elon Musk
either.
owns PayPal. He still, he bought PayPal out. He didn't start it. He took credit for it. He bought it out, like he did with Tesla. He didn't start it. He bought it out. With if we're going to go back into that history one more time, with blood emeralds. There was a movie called Blood Diamonds in South Africa where the slaves had to dig for the diamonds. His family had the black people there digging for emeralds, and that's where his family got the money. That's where he got the money to buy these companies. That's the history. This is undisputable. But he came here. He wasn't the richest man in the world. He came here and he took that money and he started buying companies. One of the companies he purchased was Tesla. And what Tesla did was it revolutionized the eco car, the energy friendly car, the one you have to
Right.
plug in. And he got all types of subsidies and benefits from it. And he made billions and billions of dollars just off the government without ever having to sell a single car. And then he sold cars too. So, Elon Musk. And so, with all of that money that he's going to lose from subsidies, if this bill passes, he hates this bill. He's afraid of Trump. That's why he backed down. But he's afraid of losing that money more than he is Trump. Because even Russia was like, yo, got problems? Why don't you come over here? You good? We got you. Yes, Vladimir Putin offered Elon Musk sanctuary. You come on over here. We good. You good over here, son? He offered him sanctuary.
Well, just so you know, this happens all the time when billionaires and millionaires can't afford or don't want to be a part of regulations and taxes of America. They do move abroad to other countries that welcome them with open arms for the same purposes.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. What I'm saying is that he doesn't want to leave because he's the left. So he backed down off of Trump and even erased some of the posts he had. But with this bill looking like it's going to pass the Senate, he knows how bad this will personally hurt his own bottom line, his pockets, will hurt his money coming in, how much money he will lose. So he's against this bill because it'll cost him so much money. He doesn't care about you or me, I promise. What else is in this big, bad bill? Well, if you missed the earlier episodes, I got a daughter, right? She took a break from college. She wants to go back to school. My baby girl, I love her. She's 24.
Shameless plug for parenthood.
I raised her by myself too. You know, one of the things that is in this bill, if this bill passes, I don't know how I'm gonna get her back into school. Pell grants go away. If you've never been to college, if you don't know what a Pell Grant is, there are grants for people that make below a certain amount where they will help you with your tuition called Pell Grants. It gets about $5,000 a semester. Takes a big chunk out of it. It doesn't take even half. It don't do that, but it takes a chunk out of what you got to pay. It helps a great deal. They're taking away Pell Grants. They're doing something to student loans that is unfathomable. They're like, I just did a short on it earlier. It's going to be released within the next couple of days, and I spoke about it previously. They're doing the student loans is they're not going to go just based off of your grades or your credit, like the United States is failing now. They're not going off of that. They're just like, we're going to look at you and decide if you deserve a loan. Well, if you're not going by my credit, you're not going by my grades, how are you making this decision? So
Again, the president, unfortunately, but fortunately, is making these decisions unilaterally. Congress, again, like we said earlier, resigning, pushing back, filibusters, they have to actually do this. But unfortunately, I think the president still has veto power. But again, we'll see what happens on July 4th when this is due. The president wants to miss this.
climate change that we've been talking about, that entire system to protect us, EPA is being gutted. What does that mean? That means there's rules in place that certain companies can only have a certain amount of it. Companies like factories can only have a certain amount of emissions. Cars can only have a certain amount of emissions. That's why when you go and you gotta get your car done every year, they're like, yo, you gotta get an emissions check because they're trying to reduce the amount of emissions because of the ozone layer. But because science is no longer considered authentic or real, and we're going with some pseudoscience like what FDR uses or whatever his name is, we're
Kennedy,
using.
how can you forget a brand of freaking Camelot, the one of the toughest names in government history, and a leader that, okay, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., fine, not JFK, his uncle, that was assassinated.
All right, all right. I had to take the shot and I forgot what I was talking about. It was all right. So what was I, man? I had to
You
take the
said
shot.
FDR instead of RFK.
Pell Grants and loans. I didn't get to Parents Plus yet. The climate change. So because of the climate change, because of the lack of belief in climate change, because the fact that it's getting hotter and hotter every year is not something that's really happening according to our government at this point. They're gutting the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, the people that are in charge of making sure that things like emissions from cars and aerosols and all of the things like clean energy, so that we don't use coal and we're starting to transfer to like more sustainable energy, and now we're falling behind the world. All of that's being gutted in this bill. The bill is gutting clean energy. It's gutting anything that has to do with EPA and pollution. They want coal. And by the way, clean coal. What is clean coal? What is a fig? Oh, it's a figment of your imagination. I actually one time was a boiler operator. Let me tell you about clean coal. You know barbecue? You have a barbecue? I was barbecuing earlier. I got mad because I had on a white shirt and I'm like, I'm gonna change the shirt because I'm not gonna get nothing on it. And I forgot to change my shirt. And now that white shirt, as you can probably guess, is garbage. Because if you brush up against coal, you're gonna get charcoal on you, right? And that's not coming out of white. It's not coming out of white, it's not coming out of the ozone layer. Coal is not good for the environment. Burning oil when you don't have to burn oil. If I have an opportunity to use clean energy and plug my car in or burn oil, why would I want to burn oil? Like, why?
Well, the thing
Why?
about the
Why would I do that? That's
EPA,
foolery.
former Congressman Lee Zeldin here from New York is in charge. And one of his concerns about the EPA is the big money grab environmental protection industry, where they're just doing scientific exploration to line their pockets. Remember, climate change is a multi-million dollar industry when it comes to the grants and funding. I think even Stacey Abrams got caught up in that stuff, pocketing money, sitting on a board to nowhere that does nothing to protect the environment overall, other than causing awareness and lining the administrative costs with all people with the six figures at the top.
Okay. So in anything, you got some people that are doing some negative things, right?
Democrats.
Stop them. But just saying, oh well, pollution isn't real, that's not an excuse. That's crazy. I can't believe you even said that.
China is the number one polluter in the world, so
And China's got more programs to try and fix pollution than the United States does right now.
hasn't kicked in yet, and we're still
It
dependent on
actually has
China.
been
Not
kicked
yet,
in,
though.
and not only is it kicked in China, but these revolutionary programs are going on through the Belt and Roads Initiative throughout the world. What does that mean in English? So China has something called the Belt and Roads Initiative. And this Belt and Road Initiative is where they go to other countries and they help build infrastructures, they help programs, they help build countries and make them better. Countries that we used to call third world countries that they now refer to as the global south are becoming better because China is helping them out. And in these third world countries, these global south countries, China's going in and they're using renewable, sustainable, and clean energy.
Well, can I speak to what China's doing here in Ghana? They're doing illegal gold mining that's actually polluting the water supply. So China can be very insidious under the guise of helping your country. Don't forget that.
Oh, absolutely. If you don't believe that, you're crazy. Absolutely. Don't think China your friend. They doing that so they can
Thank you.
get down. Don't be a fool. I'm not saying they're good. I ain't say that. I'm saying that these are the things they're doing. But nah, don't be fool. But tell me before we go on, because we got to still be on this Trump thing. But what do you mean they're digging for gold and polluting the water? How does that work?
Well, remember, Ghana, like a lot of African nations, have a lot of minerals and resources.
Natural
They want
resources,
diamonds,
right?
like you
How
said
does
too
digging
early.
for gold pollute the
Ghana is
water?
like the third or fourth number one producer in like chocolate, and they have or cocoa, one or two, in which they've discovered gold here. And Ghana's parliament again has a ministry regulating gold, mining and production. But China, since they came in on the guise of help and set up shop with all their ownership, they have sporadically throughout the country with their equipment they donate illegal gold mining. So certain areas, all that drilling that we said earlier pollutes the water supply to get some of those things out.
Wow, I didn't know about that. Thank you for that information.
Exactly. The
But
media
let's
got to
jump back.
tell
Let's get
you.
back into this. So, also, along with Pell Grants and the student loans, they're stopping the Parent Plus loans. If you don't have a kid in college, once again, here's what a Parent Plus loan is. It's a loan at a very, very low interest rate. Well, so your payments are low to help parents help their kids go to school. So they're cutting off all routes to better yourself. And then they're like, yo, don't worry, we're gonna offer if you can't get student loans,
Okay, this
go
is where, as the saying goes, I'm gonna push back on you. Think about all these college students with degrees to nowhere. The saying is 70% college using 70% of people use their college degrees for what it's for. Then all the student loan debt as a result. Vocational schools need to have a better ROI in terms of unions, labor, and some of these degrees in exploratory gender studies, I mean, really? And on top of that, these colleges are breeding activists that are anti-American and are affecting negatively on the college campuses with anti-Semitism and those things of that nature, and then individuals that are not very productive in life.
I see. All right. So while you were doing that, I just figured I'd Google something. Do college degrees help for making more money? According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor, bachelor's degree holders earn 68% more
Keep
than those with
going.
only a high school diploma. 68% more. So, uh, getting that degree will help you make more money. Just saying.
Well, who is the
68%
most
more.
educated creature in America? And their student loan correlation. Who is it?
The most educated demographic in America happens to be Black women.
And the student loan problem.
What are you
We
referring to
have
as
the
a student
highest
loan?
percentage of student loan debt as a result. That's
That's
why they're
true.
saying these need changes.
They have the highest percentage of student loan debt. They also happen to do better than their counterparts. And they're the only demographic in the world that actually does better than their demographic counterpart when it comes to earning money because of those college degrees. So and that's actually statistically factual. So the big bad bill hasn't passed as of yet, but it's sitting in the Senate, and Trump is pushing these people to get it through. We spoke about the 80-hour work week requirement, where they're just going to be kicking people off of. So an estimated 25 million, I think it is now, people are expected to get kicked off of Medicaid. How many people are in America? Like 200 million? 500 million? How many
I
people are
think
in
it's
America?
three figures in millions, America. Oh, excuse me. It's
All
officially
right.
2 o'clock here.
All right. So about 15 to 20% of Americans will be kicked off of health insurance. That's not a big number, except for the fact that it's a big number. Like,
Okay. The math isn't mathing, huh?
okay, so here's the thing, right? So if you live in that rural area, like I said, and now all of these Medicaid programs are shutting down. Let's suppose you're good. Let's suppose you got a decent job. You're a lawyer. You're a factory worker that makes good money. You make good money, but the vast majority of the money that goes into the medical facility that's near you comes from Medicaid. Like, yeah, you got the factory there, and y'all are making $40 an hour, and you got the doctors and your lawyers, but most people are farmers. They rely on Medicaid. The doctor's office not getting that Medicaid anymore doesn't make enough money just off of the Blue Cross Blue Shield people. Medicaid shuts down. I mean, the doctor's office, the service provider shuts down. Your healthcare provider is no longer regional. Now you have to travel to your healthcare provider. That's happening throughout the state. You got healthcare providers shutting down because they relied on Medicaid. You got some that's open. You might have to travel 50, 60, 70 miles to get there. There's still going to be some open. You just got to travel to get there. Now you get there, but the same thing's happened in the entire state. So now when you get there, it's seriously overpopulated because that's all that's left. So everybody's going there. It's going to affect people tremendously. You don't have to be on Medicaid to be afraid of this bill.
Unfortunately,
Anyway,
again, Leo, if you ask the main population, do you regret voting for Donald Trump? Like me, they're gonna say no, as opposed to the other opposition we had. And that's the point. The Democrats got nothing. So unless you can point to a freaking alternative than filibustering and reading a book to nowhere, the midterms would probably be interesting, but mostly in our favor.
not anymore.
So you wish, Mr. Objective.
No, no, just we'll get to that. There's new stats that you might want to be interested in. All right, so we're gonna just talk about a few other things going on in the world outside of this bill, even though the bill that's getting ready to cause a cataclysmic destruction in the state of America as we know it. There are other important things going on as well, because Trump is trying to distract us. He said something like he might once again bomb Iran. I know how you feel about that. You're not really happy with that. You're sitting in Africa right now. You probably don't want to see that.
Yeah, man, I get scared when my flight gets to Ethiopia, which is kind of close to over that situation, but bounces back to Ghana. Layover.
Well, Iran was tipped off by Trump about the uranium, apparently. So I was wrong last week. There's no uranium leak. There's no leak. What is it called? Oh man, the word is eluding me. No radiation leak.
While Leo struggles for that, I will say this. After paying attention to some of my colleagues and other YouTubers on the right side, come to realize since the 90s, Iran, like Russia, is always a big bad threat around the corner. Every time Iran's going to get nukes, Afghanistan, Iran's going to have nukes. Iraq, Iran's going to work on those nukes. And here we go again with the propaganda. So people like myself, like, oh, here we go again. And so we don't know who to believe with our mainstream media. Again, the fourth branch of government that I blame is actually enabling some of this stuff.
Well, apparently there was no radiation leak. Apparently, Trump's complete destruction of their nuclear program was, how did they used to say it in the soap operas? in the 90s, greatly exaggerated. Rumors were greatly exaggerated. Apparently, the uranium was barely damaged, it was barely touched. There doesn't seem to be widespread damage to their nuclear program. So, what's next? Emily Bovee is running for Supreme Court and is doing Trump favors. But I guess that's not big news because you're only going to see, well, the Democrats do it too. But it's just more dirt under the table. Trump was booed at the NATO summit. What do you feel about that?
He was what? He was booed in the NATO summit?
Booed at the NATO summit badly.
Well, keep in
Badly.
mind, NATO, WHO, a lot of organizations Trump's trying to pull out of. NATO's one of them because NATO was designed to what? Brush up against the USSR. USSR is not there. Why can't Russia join NATO and everybody be happy? No, there always has to be war. Trump's like, no, we're putting too much money into NATO and not getting anything back but headaches. So that's why they don't like this man. So let's be clear.
Well, he demanded everybody put their money in. They started doing that, but now he won't even commit to an Article 5 mutual defense. Basically, he won't be like, all right, yo, I got your back. We all got our money in. We're going to do this together. He's like, put your money in and good luck. Article 5 mutual defense.
Okay.
The stuff going on in Iran is so bad that they actually pushed the articles. They was like, you know what? We're going to actually do the articles of impeachment. I know we said we're going to wait. We don't have enough votes, blah, 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 blah. We don't want to mess with it. The Republicans going to turn it down. The stuff going on with Iran is so bad, they actually put the articles of impeachment on the floor. The trade talks with Canada are over. He's talking about raising taxes on Canada. Now, for those of y'all that don't know, there is a 10% tax across the board for every nation. There's a 25% tariff on aluminum, the 25% tariff on steel. We had hit somewhere like 245% tariff on China, but we've lowered it and we're down to like 35%, something like that. And there's a few other tariffs, but these tariffs were put in place about 4 months ago. No, it was only 2 months ago, on a day that Trump said was going to free America. It's going to liberate America. This is Liberation Day. And on Liberation Day, these taxes were levied on these other countries. And there's a big argument, what are tariffs, right? A tariff is a tax that's put on a good. It's put on an item when it enters the country. What does that mean in English? So if somebody ships something in, once it gets here, there's a tax on it. So if it was $1 when it was coming in, it's $1.05 or $1.10 now. That's before it gets to the store, it gets a state, local, and federal tax. The tariff is another tax on an item in the country. So the country sending the item's not paying the tax. You are. Because it didn't have a tax before it got into the country. It got the tax when it got into the country, so you pay the tax. Or the store pays the tax, and Trump told them, y'all pay the tax, don't pass it on, but prices have gone up, so take that how you want. So the pause was supposed to be for 90 days until he got all the contracts into place. He had 75 countries lining up to sign tariff deals. And so far, there's literally not one deal signed by our great deal maker. To this day. How does MAGA feel about that? As a MAGA supporter that loves this man and knows him to be the great deal maker, ignores the fact that he crashes his business, is doing the same thing to the country, how do you feel about the fact he's still not making any deals?
Still don't regret our votes. How about that? Well, the thing about it is the power of tariff was meant to use as leverage to bring these people to the table to negotiate a lot of economics here. As you know, America is like the #1 consumer in the world as opposed to producer. And Trump doesn't believe we're getting our fair share. So That's what about happens about that. But since the war is going on over there in Ukraine and Iran, and what's happening, excuse me, what's happening here with our economics, it's hard to tell. There's so many fights on many different fronts in terms of actual economics, military industrial complex, immigration. So it's hard to keep up. Like you said, things are happening every day.
The tariff, he hasn't made a single deal. The tariffs didn't work. He didn't make a deal. Not one deal in 90 days. Not one. Not one. He doesn't have a deal with one country. The art of the deal, I would put that book, I'd burn that book. I would burn that book. He did not. How do you not make one deal? I mean, damn. Nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody. You're the number one consumer in the world. You can't get nobody to make a deal with you. You have leverage as
Excuse
being the
me.
number one consumer in the world, but no one makes a deal with you. You're doing something very wrong. Eh, what's left to talk about before we let you go to bed?
Please do.
Oh,
It's 2 o'clock in the morning here.
well, this is an interesting one. His team was found to have said F the court orders restricting flights for immigrants and was shipping people out. They literally, his attorneys literally said F the court orders from the Supreme Court justice. How do you feel
Well,
about
we'll sum
that?
that up to just another political gaffe. How's that sound? That's a vocabulary
Oh,
gaffe.
nah, it literally, like, I saw the tapes. I can't play the tapes. YouTube's changed the rules. So we're not going to be playing these tapes anymore. They're demonetizing and taking away channels. If somebody plays clips, some other stuff there, it's a big thing going on YouTube right now. So you're good with them just saying later for the Supreme Court
We
justice's
all know
rulings?
that this man's mouth is reckless.
He
And
didn't
that's
say
one
it. His
thing he,
attorney literally said the F word. He like literally said F the court orders. I was like,
but again, like they always say, Trump has emboldened a lot of people to just not care and tell like it is.
well, birthright citizenship is upheld by the courts by not allowing nationwide injunctions. In English, real fast, what that means is that a nationwide injunction means that if a district court justice, if a judge on a district court makes an order and he makes it a nationwide injunction, the order he places can affect the entire country. And the Supreme Court is like, bro, you a little district court dude. Like, your nationwide injunction, your orders don't matter. For that case, it matters. It don't matter for everybody. You wildin', stop. So district courts can no longer make nationwide injunctions, rules for the entire country based off a single court case for a single immigrant.
Sounds about right.
And so this helps the Trump organization to push forward now. All right, boom, we couldn't get that dude, but we're going to get the next one. We can't come to your court. We know that, but that's cool. We got everybody else. You can't do nothing about it. Are you happy to see that immigration has moved in that direction?
Wait a minute, what was the question?
Are you happy that the Supreme Court has ruled that they can, there's no, oh wow, I don't even know how to phrase it. I thought that was clear. How do I
Exactly.
phrase
What's
this?
the question?
The question, I'm gonna say the question again. There's no more nationwide injunctions. The district courts can't make a ruling and it affect the entire country. It's no longer nationwide injunctions, as the
Okay.
Supreme Courts have just ruled, allowing Trump and his organization to be able to be like, all right, we lost this case, but we're gonna come over here and do the same case, and we can win here. Are you happy that district courts and above under the Supreme Court can no longer place nationwide injunctions, stuff that affects the entire country, and that they could get rid of immigrants even if some judges say no? If some judges
No.
say, if a judge in New York says you can't get rid of somebody, you can still go to Jersey and get rid of the people there because the judge in New York's ruling doesn't affect the rest of the country. There's no longer a
Just
nationwide
like
injunction.
abortion.
What's up?
I bring it back to abortion, just like abortion.
I see you're happy about it. Okay, I figured you would be. More Americans now seem to be concerned about preserving democracy than the economy.
That word democracy is always used to scare people. But this time, what's going on potentially when it comes to representative government and Trump steamrolling things, yes, they have a right to be concerned, especially when, like I said, always, the most powerful tool a man has is the ability to create and change the rules.
So, when you had a president that got into office based on the economy, and now you have more people
And
concerned about
immigration.
preserving democracy, you have more people concerned about what he's doing than supporting him.
Okay. Well, let's just say now Republicans need to be concerned. But if we close with impeachment again, that's the only way to stop this man at this point.
It seems like the party should be nervous. MAGA persisted with keeping Gregor Garcia out of the country, even though they knew he was mistakenly deported. As far as the immigration thing goes, seems to be the overall understanding of the Supreme Court. And documents have come out, and whistleblowers have come out stipulating this and supporting that they purposely kept him out. And you made clear that you don't care about that either. And that's how the
I'm
MAGA
still
party
fighting for
basically
the
feels about it. There's
goddamn
only one
guy.
guy.
There's other
Screw
pressing
him.
big
Screw
issues.
his family. Keep him in jail. So what if he didn't do nothing?
Most of America doesn't care, and you're gonna die on this hill, just like gender-friendly care for kids, boys and girls sports. You guys love this stuff. Not you particularly, but I'm talking about the other side. Die on this hill. Nobody
Well,
cares.
no,
That's not.
I don't love boys and girls sports. I don't even know how this relates to taking an innocent man, putting him on a plane, and throwing him in jail in a foreign country. Great branding, but what's actually inside the bill? Anti-American. That's terrifying. Why can someone who was here legally be deported? That's the question. Thank you, Chrissy J. That is like, what? Like, yo, it was a clerical error. Now we don't make mistakes where we come from. He don't belong here. Yo, there's a picture with his knuckles with gang signs. It was doctored.
Is he an
That's
American
real.
citizen?
Wow. Got pictures of
Why,
him
why is this an
and he don't
issue?
have the tattoos, man. It's crazy. Well, the most important thing that happened legally for Trump is Susan Godfrey won. Susan Godfrey is one of them law firms that was going up against him about the DEI when he was like, nah, DEI, nah. So I'm putting executive orders. Nobody can work with you no more. Yo, y'all are done. And the Supreme Court ruled that you cannot retaliate against an individual person, against a law firm, against a company with an executive order. What you did was illegal. And basically, that executive order against the law firm is no longer valid. So, what does this mean going forward as a supporter for Trump? How do you feel this affects Trump going forward, that he can't use executive orders to retaliate as was done by a Supreme Court justice, as was, I'm sorry,
Well,
go ahead.
looks like checks and balances prevails once again, and the president does have guardrails like the people want. So it all works out.
If you're enjoying the content, please consider joining the critical thinking community. We here, as you see, we try to talk to everybody. We want this to be a community. We don't want to try and figure everything out for ourselves. We want to build a community of free thinkers that can come and look at problems, puzzles, and solve them, put it together, and figure out maybe possible solutions. And we have people here like the Honorable Dion Powell who can help us to take conclusions that we come to and take it to the next level where we can put it into action. Here at the think tank, you're the important one. We
So
have to
special
come
shout
together.
out and thanks to all of our 2,100 fans watching live and also the people in our live chat. So please drop our line. I'm Dion at nyconsultant.us. That's Dion at nyconsultant.us live from the wonderful country of Ghana. Just go to Africa, especially you, black man.
Should I let him know that the sound went out when he was plugging himself?
Wi-Fi. Sorry, Africa Wi-Fi.
All right. Please like, share, subscribe. I'm gonna see if he catches it this time. I've been doing this for like the last 4 weeks. This is Leonard Sanderson and
Dion Powell.
signing out. You got it, Dead Tom. All